Hi everyone, I'm Liberty Doll and this is Liberty Update. A revised Missouri statute that went into effect January 1st could send grade schoolers to jail for fighting at recess. Prior to the change, if a kid got into a fight at school and hurt another person, they were charged with a misdemeanor and sent home. Under the new version of the statute, the student will now be charged with a Class E felony, sent to juvenile detention, and could spend up to 4 years in jail. And the rule affects all students, regardless of age or grade. Missouri's Department of Public Safety has said that they believe the new law will deter children and teens from fighting because of how damaging a felony conviction can be. However, the state does not seem to be taking into consideration the fact that small children and many teens probably don't understand what a felony charge is and all the possible ramifications. Last week saw freezing temperatures in many areas of the country, and yet a Michigan man was ticketed $128 for warming up his car in his own driveway. According to Nick Taylor, he started his car on January 2nd and went back into his home. He returned 5 minutes later, finding a ticket that read, quote, "Vehicle parked in driveway with keys in ignition, motor running. No one around." The Roseville, Michigan police chief says that leaving your vehicle running while unattended is a public safety issue, but only if the keys are in the ignition. Remote start is okay. The man will be fighting the ticket and also posted a photo of the ticket to Facebook to thank the ticketing officer, who he named as Officer Dipshit. The police chief responded with a statement to local news in which he condemned the name-calling and the angry Facebook comments and said, quote, "Drop dead. Seriously, it's on WDIV Local 4's website." In similar not-made-up news, the Judiciary Committee confirmation hearings into Senator Jeff Sessions' nomination for Attorney General began this week. The hearings were interrupted by a protest group who showed up dressed as KKK members holding giant foam fingers. The protesters had to be restrained by Capitol Police and were escorted from the hearing. The hearings were also interrupted by the group Code Pink, which describes itself as a, quote, grassroots peace and social justice movement, and also appeared at Rex Tillerson's confirmation hearing wearing T-Rex costumes. They are surprisingly anti-war, which answers the 8-year-old question of where's the anti-war left? Apparently dressing as dinosaurs and hanging out with Klan members. A Texas man also fought the law after police confused kitty litter with meth during a traffic stop. Ross LeBeau was taken to jail in December after police claimed to have found a half-pound of meth in his car. 2 field tests even read positive for meth. The police were hailed as heroes in a press release claiming that they had kept our children and loved ones free from being introduced to drugs. However, on Wednesday, the case was dismissed suddenly after the Institute of Forensic Science found out, whoops, the meth was actually cat litter. The kitty litter had been stuffed inside a sock by his father and left in his car, which his father later told him would prevent his windows from fogging. Unfortunately, police discovered the sock before LeBeau did. He had originally been pulled over for an undisclosed traffic offense. According to the Harris County Sheriff's Office, the deputies smelled marijuana coming from the vehicle. LeBeau admitted to the pot, and the deputies took it from his car, discovering the sock. At that point, LeBeau, quote, failed to identify the substance and he was arrested. He apparently didn't discover the true contents of the sock from his father until after he had posted bond. He doesn't blame the officers and is merely asking for an apology despite the accusation causing him to lose work. The thin blue line in New Jersey faced some trouble this week. That is the blue lines that have been appearing between double yellow lines on roadways to show support for law enforcement. A letter from the Federal Transportation Operations Director shook a finger at the lines this week, saying that they aren't in accordance with the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices for Streets and Highways. They have a manual for that? Turns out the federal government only allows the color blue to denote handicap spots, and there's some rule about having to see the pavement between the double yellows, quote, in the same way that it is visible outside the lines. Anything else puts motorists at risks of misinterpretation. It also probably is worth noting that the Somerset County engineer sent a letter about the lines to the US DOT back in October, and it took them 2 months to respond. New Jersey Assemblyman Eric Peterson responded on Tuesday by introducing a resolution to reject the federal ruling, stating that, quote, the federal government is out of touch with everyday Americans and that the government is needlessly bringing support for law enforcement into question. His resolution focuses on the deaths of 140 law enforcement officers in 2016 and argues that the lines are basically needed to combat negative media coverage. The county sheriff has also reached out to state officials to pass a new law allowing the blue lines. While they do have a point that this is a clear case of government overreach, New Jersey probably has bigger things to worry about. Like, for example, the fact that the FBI raided the Orange, New Jersey City Hall on Wednesday as part of a corruption investigation. Agents were reportedly looking for evidence of corrupt payments, extortion, wire fraud, money laundering, theft of federal funds, and conspiracy. The Orange City government has been the subject of an FBI probe since July 2016, and the Bureau even seized dozens of documents, computers, and hard drives from the local library. Wednesday's probe into City Hall also included agents from the Department of Housing and Urban Development and the IRS. Investigators focused on the documents and emails found on the computers of several city employees, including the mayor, business administrator, chief of staff, director of planning and development, the water department chief, and all of their administrative assistants. Several mainstream media glitches this week upped the ante on Russia hysteria and convinced people across social media that Russia is bringing imminent doom. A technical issue on Hardball with Chris Matthews made the Washington Post's David Ignatius appear to say Russia over and over again. The show had been pre-taped and the glitch quickly remedied, but the damage was done and many on social media interpreted it as an insider alarm trying to warn the American people. The glitch occurred just hours after an online C-SPAN broadcast was interrupted for 10 minutes by an RT news feed. C-SPAN released a statement that the interruption was a mere internal routing error as the television broadcast went uninterrupted. RT is among the news feeds that the network regularly monitors. The error occurred as Representative Maxine Waters was voicing support for the Securities and Exchange Commission and spoke about Russia and Trump during the glitch. There was also a blackout for approximately 10 minutes during Mike Pompeo's CIA confirmation hearing. All power to the room, including the camera feed, went out. The New York Post claims that Senator Mark Warner had begun talking about Russia and implicated Putin in the DNC hacking attacks when the power cut out. BuzzFeed, of all outlets, broke the alleged news this week that Russia has been working with and blackmailing Donald Trump over videos of him soliciting prostitutes to pee on a hotel bed that had previously been used by Obama. The incident is said to have happened in 2013. The information comes from an alleged collection of unverified memos between Trump aides and Russian operatives. BuzzFeed published the 35-page dossier, which was allegedly compiled by a former British intelligence agent. The documents claim that Trump and Russia have been in cahoots for 5 years, including the Kremlin giving Trump intelligence information on his opponents. Also in the dossier is information about the alleged election hacking, which it states was backed by Russia and was committed, in part, by DNC moles with Trump's support. It may be worth noting that the documents do include several errors, including frequent misspellings and factual errors. The FBI is investigating the credibility and accuracy of the allegations. CNN reports that a synopsis of the documents was included in a White House briefing on Russian interference in the election in order to demonstrate that Russia had information on both candidates but chose to only harm Clinton. CNN did not publish the documents themselves, as reporters stated that the claims could not be confirmed or substantiated. Trump held his first press conference since the election, in which he attacked CNN, refused to answer reporter Jim Acosta's questions for comment, and called the organization out as fake news. Now a Republican lawmaker in Texas is calling for Jim Acosta to be fired for being disruptive and disrespectful during the press conference. Rumors that the documents are actually part of a hoax plot cooked up by 4chan which has happened before, have been circulating, and, ironically, just 2 weeks ago, BuzzFeed posted an article telling readers to beware of Trump hoaxes in 2017. Wisconsin Representative Jim Sensenbrenner introduced a bill to Congress on Thursday to eliminate the ATF. But don't get too excited. The ATF Elimination Act would only transfer the ATF's current responsibilities over to other agencies. Law enforcement over firearms, explosives, and arson would be handled by the FBI, and enforcement of alcohol and tobacco would be given to the DEA. In a statement about the bill, Sensenbrenner says eliminating the ATF would be a good move towards lowering government spending and pointed to a number of scandals that have plagued the agency. He says the ATF has been branded by failure, which is true, but for a lot more reasons than any government official will ever be willing to admit. The bill would require the FBI and DEA to provide Congress with a plan for the merger. New information from the Cook County Medical Examiner's Office in Chicago reveals that the Chicago rate is even higher than previously reported. The medical examiner, which counts homicides defined as the death of one person at the hand of another, reported 812 homicides last year. The Chicago Police Department reported only 762. However, the issue is that the police department only counts those cases that are subject to criminal prosecution. They also don't include justified shootings by the police department, self-defense, or shootings that take place on highways. The Senate voted on Senate Continuing Resolution 3 today, which would increase the debt by nearly $10 trillion over 10 years instead of balancing the budget. Senator Rand Paul was the only Republican to vote against it. That concludes your Liberty-related news for the week. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you all next week. Thanks for watching.